Good morning and happy Friday. Welcome to another episode of Extraordinary Stories with Extraordinary People. My name is Amy Kochek with Amy Kochek Creative. If you've been following me for any amount of time, you know that I am all things story related. I believe that your story is the most powerful asset that you have. It's your greatest teacher. It's your greatest resource. So what I decided to do, since as a business, I'm a ghostwriter, I'm an editor, I'm a coach, I'm a speaker. As I said, I'm all things story related. I think stories are what connects us. They are what heals us. They are what heals the world. And I just wanted to take time to create a space on my platform to have extraordinary people tell their stories so that we can connect and realize that we're not alone, that people are doing some really phenomenal things in this world to make the world a better place, to change their present environment, to change the world around them. And it's just been a really great experience. If you are watching live, please tell us where you're from, converse with us, ask questions, say hello, be present. We love to interact with the people that are on live. And if you're watching on replay, do the same thing. Tell us where you're from. Let us know you. So today I am so excited. I love that we are, that I've been getting guests that are not just in the United States, because I think sometimes we, especially being in the United States, become so one-track minded, not realizing that people all over the world are doing amazing things. So my guest today, I was linked up with him with a mutual friend on Facebook, and she's like, you've got to meet him. He has a phenomenal story. He's doing great things in Europe. So I'm calling him Tana. He's going to say his full name for you because I told him I don't want to butcher it. But I'm so super excited to have him on today. He's going to tell us what he's doing in Europe and the great things that he's doing and how he came to arrive at committing his life to doing what he's doing. So Tana, I want you to introduce yourself to us. Let us know who you are, any other relevant information you want to share about yourself.
Yes, hi, hello. My name is Tanausu. It's a long name, but Tana is just half. You can pronounce it easy. I was born in the Canary Islands in Spain, and I lived in London for about 19 years. So I moved here when I was 19. I'm in London at the moment, and I'm doing a walk for peace around Europe. So I'm a pilgrim for peace, which means that normally pilgrims go to places like Santiago, Lourdes. There are destinations where pilgrims walk to on a pilgrimage. The one that I do is pilgrimage with a message of peace, walking around Europe to every capital in the EU and every major sanctuary in Europe. Yes.
Beautiful. All right. So as with all my guests, we focus on one pivotal moment in your life that something changed. So of course, all of us have countless pivotal moments. Hey, Amy from Barcelona. We have countless pivotal moments in our lives. We're just going to focus on one. So I want you to set us up. What's going on in your life before you have this moment where you realize that maybe how you're living is not how you want to live anymore and things start to change? So set us up. What's going on in your life?
Well, the most significant moment, I think it was in January 2012. That was for sure. That's when I had looking back at my life, I had few moments that were similar when I was 14, but it was all about inquiring into who I am and what is life about and what is this about, and then, but this moment I was very lost in my head. I was very disappointed. I was annoyed about my life in London, and I was not happy with anything. I was doing fashion photography at the time. I was working as a fashion photographer's assistant, and I was not connecting with anything, and I was very isolated and feeling very down. And I remember I was just ruminating in my head, like really fast, and I just left and went to the park. And that was January 2012, and the day before, it snowed, and this day was like clear blue sky, and there was snow all over the place. And there's a little park where I used to live with a fountain, and I was just walking, and then I saw a chunk of ice on the surface of the water, and I just took it and then looked at it through the sunlight. And when the sunlight hit the ice in my eyes, I was gone. There was something that is very difficult to explain, but it was a very profound moment that later on I started to investigate in what that was. And it was basically a moment of this association between your mind, the brain, and thinking stopped. And there was a huge sense of expansion for me. There was I was even now recounting and getting all my hair, my
Yeah, yeah,
thing.
yeah.
It was
It's like
like there
magical.
was
It's like a magical moment.
it was like I didn't know where I began. At the end, there was a huge sense of expansion. That it was like, but that it's very hard to put into words. But that was the most real experience I've ever had. That felt really true to me. And what happened was there was a huge sense of, as I said, expansion. Like I was gone. My body was there. I don't know how long I stood there, but then there was a beautiful, really strong sense of love and peace and joy. And I started to cry and I started to laugh. And then my life was sort of flashing before my eyes, like the things that I was doing. And I saw myself getting caught up in my mind and I started to laugh, like the whole ridiculous, energy and how much energy is spent on this. And I realized that was just all an illusion. It was all created in my mind. And it was a very powerful moment. And from that, it completely changed my whole understanding of life, of myself, on everything. And that sort of state that I was in, it lasted for about a month. I was like, I
Wow.
was in bliss. Everything was new. The very small bedstead room that I stayed in before, which I hated, it was like, wow, everything was. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but everything it was like fresh. Everything it was all bright and colorful, and I was really joyful, and that had tremendous impact in my life. Then I started naturally going veered towards things that were more in alignment to who I was. So I started to give a lot of things away. I gave most of my possessions away. I had a lot of photography books and things, and I gave them away. I just saw that I didn't need any of that. It was like, this is just too much stuff for me. I don't need any of that. And then I started to look, and also one of the things that I saw was that I was not hungry. I remember I had to force myself to eat because I was just not hungry. And I went to the kitchen and the fridge, and there was this piece of chicken breast, and I looked at it, and it hit me. It was like, why is this thing here dead for me when life is so incredible and so amazing? Why is this thing not enjoying life? And it was that connection there, and my heart was completely open, and I cried. It was really painful. Like at that moment, I said, never again. I am not going to participate in any sort of animal dying or being used for me. And I became vegan straight away. That was the reason that I became vegan. I've been vegan ever since. I didn't even consider the word of vegan or anything. I just was eating everything before, like everybody else. So
Yeah.
a lot of things happened, and then I was gearing towards silence, quiet. I used to go to the parks and sit there for hours looking at the trees and nature. The life that I had before, it was not of no use anymore, and I naturally started to change and shift. And I was very thankful to a friend of mine that I had at the time that lived in the countryside, and I could move to his place in the countryside and help him decorate. So I was surrounded by. I needed nature, and there was also that sense of. I had a really strong sense of going, like go into the world. It was like a pull, like I could have just walked out straight away, but obviously I started to see that was not the case, and I started to sort of really in a little bit. But it was as also wonderful and amazing as it was also very drastic because it completely kill all the thoughts that about myself and who I was and things like this. So then it became a period after that that was very difficult to incorporate it with society, life, and how we live. And also I started to get really overwhelmed by the suffering of others and the pain that I saw. And so it was like a very very dramatic experience in my life. But that was the main thing that really sort of completely changed my way of being and thinking and life and what is this all about. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so super fascinating. Would you say, because I know you mentioned like you had a similar experience at 14, or just like that gnawing feeling of what is life? What am I meant to do? What do you think were the steps leading up to like this very spiritual moment? Like, were you like for years very frustrated, or was this like a question that you had on a consistent basis? Like, why then? Why do you think it was at that moment at that age?
I I think because I mean, looking back in my life, when I remember very vividly having moments of absolute joy when I was a child, like being alive, like I'm alive, wow, like that was the feeling, and I remember that very vividly. And then when I was 14, I remember I hated myself when I was 14. I had issues with my self-image, and I looked in the mirror and I was like, but who are you? And I hated that. And then when I was looking into my own eyes, who are you? That question actually opened something that was like that was the first time that I experienced that expansion. It was like that kind of like silent moment, and
Yeah.
boom. And it was very real, and it was very that really, that at 14 really started to have that sort of curiosity in my mind, like, well, that felt more real than anything else, and it was like from like almost like another plane. It was very difficult to it's difficult to explain, but that really set up the whole thing about curiosity and the mind and how it works and things like this. And I think in 2012, because I was really caught up with life in London, you know, and trying to make it, and hard and difficulty and all that stuff, and I was very caught up in my mind, that I think that also, I think for me personally, I've always been fascinated by light. I study photography. I've been a photographer, and light always been for me fascinating. You know, there's different sort of qualities to light and things that you do with it as a photographer too. And I think that kind of eyes with the light sort of did something to me that was like bam, and that was it was a complete shift in awareness, basically on myself
Yeah.
and everything.
So like explain the difference in a day after your enlightenment. So like on a regular day, you're getting up, you're going to work, you're getting the things done, you're thinking. But now that you're enlightened, or after you had that moment, how walk us through what a day looks like from an enlightened perspective as opposed to what you were before that moment.
Well, there was the first initial moments. I can't even remember if I slept very well. It was just I was in such a joyous, in love with life so deeply. There was I just it was it was, I mean, also I have to say that at the time, because I was self-employed, I had a bit more freedom to you know, to do more things myself. So I don't know what would be like if you have to go to work the next day and all things like this. Obviously, I don't know. I didn't. That was not my experience. I had that space. But I remember there was I needed to be out. I needed to be out and into the world and walk and see and experience. It was like everything was new. But I
Yeah.
remember that I was called to go to where a lot of people were. So I lived in an area not too far from the financial district, one of the financial districts in London. And I said, I want to go there in rush hour, in lunch break, like at 1 o'clock. And I walked there, and you know, corridors are full of people, like one place to the other. Everyone was going for their own lunch. And I remember just walking, and I felt like I was a ghost, like I was invisible. I was looking for a connection with people and looking into people's eyes and their faces, and I could not connect. People, I did not exist there. It was like, and it felt like I was walking on slow motion, and all these people were just sort of, you know, sort of these bodies were walking around, but there was no substance there. There were no there, and I could read it much more. And that's also another thing that I experienced, that I could look at someone and I could see where they were emotionally, you know, what was going on for them. Where before it was like each to their own. But
Yeah.
that also happened with the animals, because when I was in the countryside, my friend took me to one of those like I think it's called agricultural fair, where they show animals and they sell the different kinds of cows, different breeds. And I went there, and it was the first time in my life that I looked at the animals, like the sheep. They were for exhibit, and I could see that they were bored, that they didn't want to be there, they were upset. One of them was angry, and it was all this sort of connection that I didn't have before. You know, it was like and they looked at me, and I looked at them, and I could really get where they were.
Yeah.
And also, I remember there was a family. There was a pig with pigs, you know, very nice, cute, fluffy, pinky
Yeah.
pig. And there was a family with hot dogs, you know, eating hot dogs and petting the pigs. And that image myself was like, of course, when we are in front of the animal, we love the animal. We want to be with the animal. It's like, but this is disassociated completely from the process. And I could see, so basically every day I could see things that I couldn't see before. It was like a whole opening of and life and the political system, society, from traffic lights, cinema. Everything was just like all over the place and input. So it was like, I don't know, like born again, as they say. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I was just gonna say it's like this new birth experience, especially with the way that you're talking about viewing the world with wonder. Because I find that so interesting from a child's perspective, right? Everything is, if you look at a baby, like they pick up objects and will stare at it for hours because
Yeah.
wonder that we lose, you know. But I think that's so phenomenal that you had that experience again to where you were conscious of it. So now the question is, now that the old Tana is gone, and now you have this new, like, reborn Tana, how do you start to find the next steps? Like, what are the next steps for you, and how does that come to you?
It took time. I mean, it was a very slow process. So I went to the countryside because everything slowed down to such a degree. There was just being present in the moment. So I started to see what can I do with this. You know, how can I live my life? There was things that I lost friendships because we couldn't connect anymore. I lost, the ambition and the drive that I had before to make it because I was not interested in that. So I was like, well, this is now what is really appealing to me, what is, and so I sort of slowly started to find out what was natural, and I always wanted to help people and be for people. And then when I started to see how in my surroundings how people were becoming frustrated and the suffering that I could see, and then when I saw that, I was like, God, I wish they could just see how they are pretty much creating a lot of their own drama, you know, in how they react to life and the situation. And then so that sort of started to build up, and then in the back of my mind I had that pull to go, you know, to go and walk into the world, and which I didn't pay attention before. But then when I was in the countryside, I came back to London, I had no boundaries. So I was basically going from one thing to another, and then I ended up in situations when I was like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
Like, because you're so open and everyone is, you know, for you it's like, yeah, everyone is, you know, is wonderful, and well, maybe they're going through that, but you know, you don't judge them, you just say. And then eventually I just go pull into situations that I was, okay, this is actually not healthy for me, I need to come out of that. So I started to see, okay, I have to put boundaries, I have to put, you know, perspectives. And then I started to see that what I wanted to do was to be able to put this into a way of helping people to see for themselves how much power they have themselves, you know, how much they can create in their own life, and simplify the beauty of simplicity and silence, quiet, and just not having so many things, you know. And so coming back to London was also hard from when I left the countryside, because it was back again to the, you know, the noise and all the things, and life. I was trying to do different things, different businesses, different things, and they didn't work out. I think because I was not paying attention to that pull that was going to the world. And then I started to put more attention onto that. I was like, what does it really mean? What is it like? What? And it's like, well, I want to share this with people. I want to let them know that it's possible. That it's all there. You know, we just have to find ways to not get so caught up in these routines and our attention to all this stuff, and put the attention inwards. And that sort of took time as well. But I was like, yeah. And then when I started to pay more attention to that sort of inner voice, things started to work out more. And then, you know, what do you call them? Synchronicities were happening, and things were just turning up. And then I was like, well, this is the right path. So yeah, this is like, it was a long process, but it was about opening up to that truth, and listening more to that, rather than what was expected of me, what I should be doing, blah blah blah, you know, all the identities and things that you're supposed to do in society.
Yeah.
When I didn't pay attention to that, it was, things started to move in the right direction.
Yeah. So tell us how you get to the point, because I know you keep saying you kept having this pull of, like, you need to go and walk, right? Which sounds so random, like, get out and walk. So
get out.
yeah. So how did that become more of like something that you could easily define and say, oh, this is what it really means to go out and walk, when you got, and especially how you got involved with the Peace Pilgrims? How did that happen?
Well, that was I was already. I started to develop. I started to make drawings about how the mind works, and I thought, I've got it. I mean, I've got it here. So I just do like diagrams on, you know, my ideas on how can I help people? How can I, you know, let them understand that it's all an illusion, and then how can you become powerful in your life? So I started to do all of that. But then I was like, well, how can I incorporate that? And then I was like, I really want to be in nature. I want to be out there in the world. And then I saw a documentary for Peace Pilgrim, which was this American woman that she walked. I saw it on YouTube. It's still on YouTube. It's available. And she walked the United States from the 1950s. And she walked for about 38 years for peace. So and when I saw the documentary, again, every hair on my body just stood up. And I was like, that's it. This is exactly it. Because she also had some experiences when she went into the woods, and she saw the full moon, and she had an experience there. And hearing her talking about that experience took me back to my experience. I don't know if it's, like, it was like, wow.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was sort of like there was a deeper connection and understanding. And I thought that's it. It's like walking for peace, basically.
yeah,
And then I started to see that it was bittersweet because she walked for all those years, from the 50s, and she died at 1980 something because it was a car crash that she was involved in. But all the work that she wanted to do at the time, and look at how we are now, the state of the world that we are now with politics, and the fear of Armageddon, and the extreme far right and all that stuff. And I thought, wow, it's never ending. So we have to always keep on our toes in that. So that was the inspiration for me to do it in Europe, because Europe seems to be fracturing. Europe is borderless, so you can walk from one country to another. You can work and live, which is amazing. That doesn't happen anywhere in the world, where you
yeah,
have all these countries together. And I was a child of that and benefit from that. And I was like, well, that's the thing. Is I need to do this. This is my calling.
yeah,
And because it felt so real and truthful, when I saw that, I was like, that's the way to go.
yeah. So where did you start? Like, where was your starting point? And then where have you walked, and how many miles or how many kilometers in your case have you accumulated at this point?
Well, I started in London. As you can see here, the map behind me. I don't know if you can see the blue line, which I drew. So I started in London here in May 2017. And I first did the whole of the British Isles. So I walked from London to Wales. And then all the waterways always is a ferry. So I took a ferry to Ireland, and then walked from Ireland to Northern Ireland, and then a ferry to Scotland, and then back down. So I first did this called the Circle of Peace, the Peace Circle.
Yeah.
And then also it's important because the date when I left, I was going to leave in June 2017, but there was a terrorist attack in the Manchester Arena on the 22nd of May, with when Ariana Grande was playing, and all these children, that were killed for all this. And there was a lot of terrorist attacks going on in Europe at the time, like the whole in Paris and France and London. So that was like, well, this is I need to go now, and I need to I need to walk in the UK for peace. And then I planned to also do the whole of Europe. Initially was that, so that was the whole summer of 2017. And then I carried on to the south of England, and then ferry to France, and then France, Brussels. So I walked to Brussels, Paris, all the way down to Lourdes in the south of France. So I walked the whole of France, and then by the Pyrenees, which is a very big sanctuary place, and then walked to Santiago de Compostela, which is a very popular pilgrimage site in Spain, so the north of Spain. Then cross over Portugal to Lisbon,
Mm-hmm.
and then Lisbon cross all the way to Madrid, Barcelona. So I crossed the whole Iberian Peninsula, then back to France, then Switzerland, Germany, the Czech Republic, back to Germany, Denmark, Sweden, and Finland. So this altogether was about 18 months, and is around 10,000 kilometers, which I think you said it was 6,000 something miles.
Yeah, a little bit over 6,000 miles.
Yes, and I'm halfway there because I'm going to every capital in the EU and every major sanctuary place. So I still have to go from Helsinki. Helsinki, I came to London for Christmas, and I stay here since because of health issues. But
Yeah.
I'm now planning to go back to Helsinki by plane, and then walked from Tallinn all the way, all the capitals in Eastern Europe, to Athens, Athens all the way to Rome, Rome all the way to Amsterdam, and Amsterdam back to London. So I think I have another approximately 10,000 kilometers to cover. Yes. Yeah. I'm not done yet. I'm halfway there.
Yeah, well, you got half of the European map done. That's extremely impressive. So tell me, like, while you're doing these walks, like, what's the doing part of it? Like, as you're walking, are you stopping places? Are you talking to specific people? Like, what's the process of the actual walk look like?
Well, the main thing is to engage with people as much as I can, obviously, if they speak the language. And but also when I get to the capitals of each country, I want to contact all the peace groups available there in each country to see what work they do, what sort of work is being done, for peace. And it can be anything. It can be from women's rights to animal rights to, the politicians and how they're going, and anti-fascist movements and all these sorts of things, to see what's happening, and also to inspire people to say, I'm doing this, you can do so much more with yourself too. You don't have to wait for someone to take action. You can do it yourself from a place of understanding and love. But the physicality part of it varies. you have to be very present to the moment. That's for sure. You have to be
Yeah.
here and now, step by step, and look at your surroundings when you walk, because the weather can change. You might have to, change you have an ulcer in your feet. You're hungry. What do you do? So you're very much grounded in the present moment all the time, moment by moment. And when I walk, and sometimes if I don't find places to sleep, I have my tent with me. So I just go in a little forest wooded area where there is it doesn't belong to anybody. It's just by the road somewhere, and put my sleeping tent there for the night, and then the next morning keep going. And then I have contacted monasteries, churches, people on Facebook Connect sometimes. So I know someone there, you can stay there, or and then so it's always been like a combination between me being in the outdoors, or me being somewhere, or staying in a garage, or some sort of um, hall in a village, or it all varies. That certainly you don't have a plan. You know pretty much where you're going, but then you have to be open to whatever life brings you each day. Yeah.
What's been like in your travels thus far? What's been like one of the most like amazing life-changing experiences, as far as it could be someone that you met, a conversation you had, a piece, something you did for peace in that moment? Like what's like out of the 6,000 plus miles, what was one moment where you were like, wow, that was
Well, there has been many moments but I think there's a couple of things. One is with nature, with the beauty of nature, and being completely in tune with nature, because when we live this sort of life in the cities and stuff, we sort of are disconnected to our sense of the environment and the area around us. And that was like being very grateful when I put my tent, I collect my tent, and I stay there and I say thank you. I was under a tree, and thank you because it's another day, and I carry on. But also the beauty of nature, like the light and the sun, or the clouds, or a sunset, that completely fills you with wonder and cry from the beauty of it. And then connections with people. So yeah, to meet people that have overcome difficulties, that had people that were involved in the concentration camps in Germany, things like this. So the sort of the human spirit, that when I hear some story of someone that has had a really hard past, or difficult cancer, having a difficult relationship with their partner, they threw them out, or being chased by someone, or things like this, and how they overcame that sort of strength of the human spirit, that's always very, very, very inspirational. There's a lot of them. There's so many that I cannot really point at. And I don't think it would be fair to any of them to just point at one. I think the general feeling is nature, and the sacredness of nature, and the beauty of nature, and how wonderful this is, this planet that we live in. We are alive, and this is nurturing us. We have to look after it. And then people that actually have gone through so many hardships, and then are now glowing and happy because they overcame that and they made a choice.
So what does this look like for you within the next couple of years? Like, do you plan on finishing out the rest of Europe? What happens when you finish with Europe? Have you gone there, or are you still trying to just stay in the moment?
Stay in the moment. We can never really predict what the future will be like. I know the plan is to finish this, to do the whole of Europe, obviously getting involved, sharing as much as I can with people, and also giving a different view of reality, because what we're so used to is all negative and bad and this and the other. If you base your understanding of the world from what you see in the media or what people tell you, you're really missing out, on what life is about. So I just thought that I wanted to show that there is millions of people doing great work. There is millions of people that are at peace, that are wonderful, they're friendly, they're open, from any religious groups, any backgrounds, any color, any race, any size. This is the thing that I really wanted to work for, like the humanity, and that's what keeps me going. So at the end of it, I don't know. Obviously, the ideal would be to come back to London. Maybe I would be walking in another areas. I don't know. I had this thought of walking the whole of Northern Africa, from Morocco to Mecca, because the whole of Muslim world, and to show how people are wonderful, and they're caring, and they're welcoming, because we have all these ideas about what the other is like, and I like to counteract all of that sort of judging and racism and all this stuff. But for now, step by step. So the first thing is to get better now, and then go to Helsinki. From Helsinki, go to Tallinn in Estonia, and then walk down all the way to Athens. So then bit by bit. But yeah, getting involved and keep sharing and getting involved with humanity. That's what I like.
Yeah. I love that. So tell us from this experience after, being enlightened, starting your peace walks, meeting the people that you've met. What's like one big takeaway, like this one learning moment for you that sticks out from this whole experience?
Well, the commonality that we all have, that we are all, I wouldn't say the same, but because you have these differences, but those differences in truth they don't matter. The core of who we are is much much bigger than what we think it is. We tend to play small, and then all these sort of differences that we think is like nationalities. Just because you were born here, what does it mean to you? What about if you were born here? What about if you were born there? So when I walk, I don't present myself as a Spanish person or anything. I just say my name is this, and I was born here, and I live there. That's what I always say. And then I started to see that people open up to that when you don't come with these ideas of identity. So the whole core of what we really are is amazing to see that, to see how you're speaking to someone in the Czech Republic that you don't speak the language. They don't speak the language. They don't understand each other, but they're crying. They're crying, and then you connect with that, and they're telling you something. You don't know exactly what it is, but you get that person. You get what the person is going through, and that is the truth of who we are. Beyond language, beyond identities, it's like that sort of connection, and I think we have to keep that. That our humanity is the most crucial thing we have. So through sharing stories, as you do, so I also want to thank you for what you're doing, because I think it's wonderful work.
Yeah.
So the stories really connect us, because then you can see the similarities that we have with each other, rather than all this, I'm from here, I'm from there. Enough of that already. I mean, we've explored all of that. There's been enough wars and problems and traumas about these sorts of things, separation, and that sort of finding that it doesn't matter where anyone is, and when they tell you the stories, you can say, okay, this woman in Switzerland is going through the same thing that someone told me again in Northern Ireland, and then now someone in Spain is actually feeling the same way that someone in Finland told me. Yeah. So you see, like beyond all of that, that's why I call it walking for peace beyond borders. I've got it in my t-shirt here, and if you can see it.
Yeah.
Walking for peace beyond border, because it's the not just the physical borders of the nations, but the borders that we put ourselves in. How we separate with, and I think that's the main thing that I can see is so beautiful, and it's very fulfilling. To see that the humanity that we all share is something that's very precious, and we have to keep preserving it.
Yeah, it's extremely powerful. I love that you brought that up, because that's extremely powerful. I want you, last question. So I want you to talk directly to people that are watching, because I think all of us get into that moment of like having that thought inside of us that says there has to be more than this, like beyond just striving and doing and living. There has to be something beyond this. So for the people out there that have that thought, that are having that knowing thought, maybe the same knowing thought that started with you when you were 14 or even earlier, what would be some encouragement or a piece of advice that you can give them to get to a point of enlightenment, or to a point of newness like you got to?
Well, I think there's few things. First, to try to simplify, like streamline your life. That if you're all over the place, and the mind loves that, categorizing and being busy all the time, but that is robbing you from being in the present moment. So it's being present to everything that you do, from washing the dishes to going shopping. Just be there and realize that, one, life only happens in the now, like here, right now. This is all there is for us, because it's what's happening is here. We tend to go with the mind into imaginary scenarios, like most of them are Hollywood blockbusters. Like it's gonna go wild, it's gonna go terrible. So I started to take away from that the power, to not give so much power to the thinking and the thoughts, and started to ground yourself more in your truth, and slowing down and finding time for yourself, going into nature, going into a park, and relax, and then started to see what's there for you, what's the truth there, and then that sort of small voice, what is it telling you? Then listen more towards that, and also to open up, to open your heart to love, love without borders, without conditions. It's like try to let that love out, that you have. We all have that, but we always like, no, I'm scared of this. No. There is not such a thing as a broken heart. The heart doesn't break. The heart, it just expands, and then if you are waiting for someone to fulfill you, someone to complete, this stuff, that's where the danger is. And I think there is a lot of that in society already. We have conditions everywhere that we are not good enough, that we're not powerful enough, that we're not worthy, and it's all inside of you. So you have to pay attention to that and let it out. The love that you have for a pet, or the love that you have for a child, that's telling you that the potential is there and the possibility for you to love unconditionally is there. Why don't you target that love to other areas in your life, like friends, co-workers, family, and see how that slowly is going to transform your life. When you don't wait for anybody to tell you anything, you just from your own authority say, this is me and I love life. I love this. So I'm going to express that and I'm going to live my life through that. So it's like a focusing on, instead of being all over the place, like focusing on your true self, and there is nothing to be scared of, because a lot of people are scared of looking inwards because they think it's going to find something horrible, but that's also part of the construction, that we are terrible people, that we've done something bad, and that happens to everyone. We all done some things that we might not be proud of, but it doesn't matter. It's just part of human learning. So it's about really listening to your core truth, and from there slow and then take action. So it's not as a reaction to something in life, but it's about like a drive, and it might not be as loud as your ego in your mind. There's no this ambition. I want to make it, I want to be big, I want all this money. That's loud already as it is. It might be something that you might have to change something in your life. You might have to let go of certain relationships. You might have to look at the way that you eat and things, and like be more authentic to yourself. And I think that opens the door to having a more authentic life and a more peaceful life and a more loving and caring, for yourself and others. It sort of comes from in and out. It overflows.
Yeah.
And then it's always renewed. It's renewing itself. It's never dependent on any outside source. It's always inside of you. So you're like at peace. And yes, things happen and life happens, but you don't react to it in the same way. You have a sort of sense of peace right inside of you, that even if the surface of the water is like moving like this, as they say, the depth of the ocean is calm. And that's pretty much what you experience. It's like, yeah, okay. And then you can deal with life much more powerfully and simply, and then you might, just let go of things that are not good for you.
Yeah. Wow. Tana, thank you so much. This interview has been just so inspiring, so motivational. Your words are very powerful. I encourage anyone who is watching this, please share this. Share it with people that you know. Share it with your Facebook audience. Share it with friends. Text it to people. I always upload these videos onto my YouTube channel as well. This has been a really phenomenal interview. So thank you so much for your time. Before we close out, help us know, how do we get in contact with you? How do we follow your journey? How do we help you?
Yes, I've made a little note here. So this is my hashtag, pilgrimforpeace. So that's my profile on Instagram, Facebook. I basically use Instagram a lot because I'm very visual, and it's all about not just what I've been going through, but things that I see. Like I've been taking pictures of London, messages that I see, graffitis, things that are actually interesting. So it's Pilgrim for Peace. That's my profile in Instagram and Facebook. And then I do work for. I'm preparing a Patreon. I'm still trying to sort it out because it's not easy. It's I thought it was easier than it is, because I really want to, I want to keep going, and I want to also give a lot of weight for people, like talks and like stories, reflections, insights, things that I want to be doing and putting there. So the Patreon is still it's a baby step, but it's patreon.com/my name, which is TANAUSU.
Okay.
That's patreon.com. And then what I've been doing, quite a few people ask me, like, how can I help you, donate towards your work? Because I use 11 pairs of shoes, for example, like so. Yeah. If people want to donate, and I have a PayPal, so I have a PayPal which is called paypal.me/ and then that's my name. So that's, if someone wants to do like a one-off donation, that's welcome, because I'm now collecting to buy the ticket to go back to Helsinki and the ferry and things like this. But then the Patreon will be for people that want to ongoing support, and then I will put like insights there to try to help people as much as I can, like write stories, specific stories that I think are related, people can relate to, and things like this. So yeah, this is all in the making and stuff. And technology is like, how can we use technology nowadays to do good in the world? So like what you do here is incredible. I mean, look at that. This is like. This is happening live on something that 50 years ago would be considered absolutely crazy. So let's use it for good, Let's use it to share our ideas and connect with people. We don't have to be physical, but we can connect and So that's I'm happy for PayPal, for Patreon, for Instagram, for Facebook. I'm glad because this sort of pilgrimage, is risky and it's scary. You never know what's going to happen. So having that support is crucial. So, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. And we'll put those in the comments as well. But yeah, so if you can help follow what he's doing, if you can help donate, please do so. You're doing a really great thing in this world, Tana. And I thank you so much for your time, for your story. I so appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for tuning in. And we